They say loneliness kills. But they never tell you what kind. Not the kind when you're physically alone. Not when you sit by yourself at a cafe, or walk through an empty house. That's silence. That's space. That can even be peace. Real loneliness is far more dangerous. Because it doesn't depend on how many people are around you. It's what happens when you're surrounded by everyone and still feel like nobody sees you. When you laugh at a joke and hear yourself echoing, realizing no one else was really listening. When you're sitting in a crowd, and you might as well be screaming underwater. That's the kind of loneliness that eats at your soul. Quietly. Every day. There is a point in every life when you start to feel the drift, a slow, imperceptible unraveling of connection. Maybe your friends get busy. Maybe your partner doesn't look at you the same. Maybe your parents have nothing left to say. You begin to shrink inside. You still reply to messages. Still go to work. Still smile. But slowly, you're not living, you're performing. You laugh, but it's rehearsed. You speak, but it's empty. The world keeps spinning, but you start to feel like a ghost in your own life. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." But what happens when your soul is the noisiest place of all? When every thought turns inward, when every judgment becomes a sentence, when the silence in your chest becomes unbearable. That's when loneliness becomes dangerous, when you start to believe that the person you are inside is unworthy of connection. When the thought of being seen feels more terrifying than the thought of being invisible forever. This isn't just sadness. It's not depression, not exactly. Real loneliness is spiritual. It's a fracture in the bridge between you and the rest of existence. It's the moment you stop believing that anyone could ever truly understand you, and worse, that it even matters. You don't reach out, not because you don't want to, but because you're sure nothing good would come of it. That people would get bored. That they would walk away. That you're too much. Or maybe not enough. So you shut down. Not all at once, but piece by piece. You stop telling people how you feel. You make your texts shorter. Your smiles thinner. You say, "I'm fine," more often than you say your own name. And slowly, you disappear, while pretending to still be here. The Stoics never promised life without suffering, but they did offer a way to suffer without becoming less. Seneca wrote that, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." And he was right. When you're lonely, your mind becomes a hall of mirrors. Every interaction is a test. Every silence is proof. Every rejection is a prophecy. And worst of all, you begin to believe that your loneliness is deserved, that it reflects something broken in you. But that is the lie. You are not lonely because you are unworthy. You are lonely because you were made for something deeper. Your heart is not empty, it's starving. You feel disconnected because the world has taught you to keep your soul hidden, your feelings vague, your longings tame. You were told not to be too intense, not to expect too much, not to feel too deeply. But Stoicism doesn't ask you to feel less, it asks you to master your feelings. To know them. To hold them with clarity. Not to drown in them, but to use them as a compass. Loneliness, too, can be a compass. It tells you what's missing. It tells you what matters. It shows you where the wound is. But only if you're brave enough to stop running from it. Most people cover loneliness with noise, with screens, with small talk, with endless tasks. But noise is not a cure. It's a sedative. And once it wears off, the ache comes back stronger. The only way out of real loneliness is through the courage to face it head-on. To sit with it. To ask it what it wants to teach you. Maybe it's telling you to stop living on autopilot. Maybe it's reminding you that the people around you are not the people your soul needs. Maybe it's asking you to strip everything down, and start over. To stop chasing shallow approval. To stop pleasing strangers. To stop pretending. Because the truth is, you cannot be fully connected to others until you're deeply connected to yourself. Marcus Aurelius didn't fear solitude. He embraced it. Not because he was cold, but because he knew, solitude is not the same as loneliness. Solitude is strength. Loneliness is the absence of meaning. But once you give your solitude meaning, your loneliness dissolves. When you start showing up to your own life, fully, vulnerably, courageously, something happens. You stop waiting for someone else to make you feel alive. You become alive on your own. You stop needing the world to validate you, and instead, you begin to validate your own soul. That's where the transformation begins. The moment you start being honest with yourself, really honest, is the moment the loneliness starts to shift. Not because anyone magically appears to rescue you, but because you stop abandoning yourself. You stop hiding who you are just to be more palatable. You stop apologizing for your intensity, for your silence, for your sensitivity, for your depth. You stop trying to be who they want, and you begin to remember who you are. This is not a romantic idea. It's war. The war to reclaim your soul in a world that would rather you smile than speak your truth. The war to resist the temptation of belonging at the cost of your integrity. The war to be whole, even if that means being alone. You can be surrounded by people and still be dying inside. You can have followers, friends, even lovers, and still feel invisible. Because connection has nothing to do with numbers. It has everything to do with honesty. You can't feel close to people if you're pretending. You can't feel loved if you're never seen. You can't be seen if you're always performing. Real connection requires real presence. It requires risk. It requires showing your cracks, your fears, your longing. And that's terrifying, especially when you've spent years being punished for your vulnerability. But Stoicism teaches us that courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the decision to act in spite of it. To break free from loneliness, you must dare to be visible again. Not online, not in the filtered version of your life, but truly visible, to someone who matters. To someone who's not just there for the good parts. That kind of relationship begins with one thing, truth. If you can't speak your truth to others, speak it to yourself. Write it, whisper it, bleed it onto the page. But stop burying it, because what you bury does not disappear. It waits. And it grows teeth in the dark. And so, we must learn to build our way back, not to the noise, but to meaning. To connection rooted in something deeper than shared hobbies or mutual complaints. We must seek out souls, not just faces. Conversations, not just contacts. Presence, not performance. You won't find this everywhere. And you shouldn't expect to. Most people aren't ready for that kind of depth. That's okay. The goal is not to be loved by everyone, it's to be known by a few. One honest connection can heal more than 100 hollow ones ever could. So stop scattering yourself into pieces trying to be acceptable. Gather yourself. Become whole. Let the people who can't meet you fall away. That's not failure. That's filtering. The Stoics didn't seek crowds. They sought clarity. Epictetus said, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. Because the path to truth is not paved with applause, it's paved with silence. With misunderstanding. With being misjudged. You will walk it alone at first. But only for a while. Because what's real always draws in what's true. Real people can sense real hearts. But only if you show yours. So ask yourself, what are you hiding? What part of you are you burying in exchange for approval? What version of yourself are you performing to keep others comfortable? And then ask, what would happen if I stopped? If I stopped people-pleasing? If I stopped dumbing myself down? If I stopped laughing at things that don't feel funny? If I stopped nodding when I wanted to scream? If I stopped saying yes when I meant no? Would I be more alone? Or would I finally be free? Here's the truth most won't tell you. Freedom and loneliness often look alike, at first. They both feel like emptiness. They both feel like silence. But one is a prison, and the other is a door. Loneliness says, you are not wanted. Freedom says, you don't need permission. Loneliness says, something is wrong with you. Freedom says, you don't have to pretend anymore. At first, they feel the same. But stay with the silence long enough, and it begins to change shape. It begins to become yours. It becomes your sacred ground, your quiet strength, your place of return. There is power in knowing that you can be alone, and still be whole. It doesn't mean you don't need people. We all do. But it means you are no longer dependent on shallow validation. You are no longer at the mercy of every smile, every like, every invitation or rejection. You stop orbiting around others. You return to your center. And from that center, something incredible happens. You begin to attract not noise, but resonance. Not crowds, but kindred souls. You begin to recognize people not by what they do, but by how they feel. By how your nervous system calms in their presence. By how your words don't get stuck in your throat. By how your silence is not awkward, but safe. This is how loneliness ends. Not with more entertainment. Not with more followers. Not even with more friends. But with more truth. With more presence. With deeper roots. Loneliness ends when you stop hiding, and begin to live from the inside out. And yes, there will be loss. There always is. But what you lose will never compare to what you gain, yourself. Your real self. The one that doesn't shrink. The one that doesn't apologize for feeling too deeply. The one that doesn't perform to be loved, but simply is. And once you return to that self, you realize something even more beautiful. You were never really alone. You were just disconnected, from your own soul, from your values, from your truth. And the moment you come back, life begins again. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Look well into thyself. There is a source of strength which will always spring up if thou wilt always look." That's where it lives, not out there, in someone else's eyes, but within. In your own gaze. In your own truth. In your own unwavering presence with yourself. That is the end of real loneliness, and the beginning of something far greater. But what if it's been too long? What if you've spent years behind your mask, smiling when you wanted to cry, staying quiet when your voice was burning inside you, pretending to be fine while something in you slowly withered? What if loneliness has become so familiar that you don't even recognize it anymore? What if you've forgotten what it feels like to be fully seen? Here's the truth, it's never too late to come back. Not to the world, but to yourself. That's the real beginning. Because as long as you are a stranger to yourself, every room will feel cold. Every relationship will feel like a performance. Every connection will feel temporary. You'll keep wondering why nothing lasts, why no one stays, why everything feels hollow. But it isn't them. It's that you've lost the anchor inside. You've forgotten who you are beneath the masks. Beneath the achievements. Beneath the smiles that don't reach your eyes. Seneca wrote, "A man who is everywhere is nowhere." The same is true of a soul. If you are scattered, if you are constantly chasing something, affection, attention, approval, you will feel empty, no matter how full your life looks. You cannot connect with others when you are disconnected from your center. You cannot belong anywhere until you belong to yourself. So what does that actually look like? It means learning to be honest about your pain. Not dramatic, just honest. You don't need to bleed for the world. You don't need to announce your wounds. But you do need to stop denying them. Stop brushing off the ache. Stop calling it just a bad day when your soul has been starving for months. Stop pretending you're okay just because you function. Survival is not the same as peace. Being alone is not the problem. Feeling unworthy of love is. And that belief, that deep, dark lie, it grows in silence. It grows every time you say, "It's nothing." Every time you smile when you want to scream. Every time you stay in a room where your soul is shrinking. Every time you love people who do not see you. You must become the one who sees you. Sit with yourself. Not with your phone. Not with music blaring in your ears. Just sit. In stillness. In breath. Ask yourself, what am I really feeling? What do I actually need? What am I pretending not to know? It will hurt at first. That's okay. Most people run from silence because they fear what it might reveal. But what's hidden in you is not a monster. It's a memory. A longing. A need that was never met. A truth that was never spoken. The silence won't break you. It will show you what needs to be healed. And healing is never found in more distraction. It's found in awareness. In presence. In facing the ache, not escaping it. Loneliness thrives on lies. The lie that no one understands you. The lie that you're too broken to love. The lie that you're too much, or not enough. These lies flourish in darkness. But when you bring light to them, when you speak them out loud, they begin to lose their power. You realize you're not the only one. You realize pain doesn't make you unworthy, it makes you human. And being human means you are never truly alone. You are part of something larger. A thread in the fabric of life. A soul like every other, aching to be known, aching to be heard. That ache is not shameful. It's sacred. You were not made to be disconnected. You were made to feel, to relate, to touch, to love, to be loved. But first, you must break the habit of abandonment, not from others, but from yourself. You must stop ghosting your own needs. Stop betraying your own voice. Stop silencing your own pain just to make others comfortable. Because the more you do that, the lonelier you become. And no one can save you from that kind of loneliness, except you. So how do you begin? One moment of truth at a time. Say how you really feel, even if your voice shakes. Tell someone you miss them, even if they don't say it back. Ask for what you need, even if it feels selfish. Set boundaries, even if they make people uncomfortable. Take up space, even if it feels like too much. Cry when you need to cry. Rest when you need to rest. Say no when your soul whispers it. Say yes when it comes from your center. You won't get it perfect. That's not the goal. The goal is honesty, presence, integrity. That's how you rebuild the bridge from yourself to the world. Not by begging for love, but by standing in your truth. By becoming someone you can count on. Someone you can come home to. Someone who doesn't disappear just to keep others around. Because here's the paradox. The more you abandon yourself, the more alone you feel, even when you're with others. But the more you stay true to yourself, the less alone you feel, even in solitude. Solitude becomes nourishing when you fill it with truth. Loneliness fades when you begin to speak from your soul, not from your mask. And connection, real, lasting connection, is born in the places where you're no longer afraid to be seen. Marcus Aurelius knew this. He lived surrounded by power, by politics, by people. And yet he returned, night after night, to his journal, to his solitude, to his inner fortress. Because even an emperor needs a place to be unmasked, to be human, to be held by truth. You don't need to be a philosopher. You just need to stop running. You just need to turn inward, not to escape the world, but to return to it, with your heart intact. Your loneliness is not a curse. It's a call to come back to what's real, to what matters, to the people, the places, the practices that make your soul breathe. Answer it, gently, boldly, one step at a time. You are not too far gone. You are just one moment of truth away from coming home. If you've ever felt that no one really gets you, you're not wrong. Most people never will. And that's not a tragedy, it's clarity. Because you don't need the whole world to understand you. You don't need 10 people, or 5. You just need one. One soul who hears what you're not saying. One heart that doesn't flinch at your truth. One presence that doesn't try to fix you, impress you, or use you, but simply hold space for you to exist as you are. But even that kind of connection begins with you. You teach people how to treat you by the way you treat yourself. If you constantly abandon your own needs, they will too. If you silence your feelings, others will feel entitled to ignore them. If you never show your soul, they will forget you have one. So you must go first. You must show the world what you are no longer willing to accept, and what you will no longer hide. It won't be easy. Loneliness, even when painful, becomes a comfort zone. Familiar. Predictable. There's a dark safety in believing no one will understand you, because then you never have to risk being vulnerable again. But that's not safety. That's quiet despair. That's a life half-lived. The Stoics never taught us to run from pain. They taught us to transform it. Epictetus said, difficulties show what men are. And loneliness, real, soul-level loneliness, is one of the greatest difficulties a person can endure. But it also reveals something vital, the shape of your heart. The longing inside you is not weakness. It's direction. It's the compass of your soul pointing toward meaning, toward truth, toward people who can meet you, not halfway, but fully. But they can only find you if you're willing to be seen. Most people walk through life like ghosts, present in body, absent in spirit. They don't listen. They don't look. They don't stay. And so we begin to mirror them. We shrink. We nod. We disappear behind smiles. Until we no longer recognize ourselves. If you want to break this cycle, you must begin with radical presence. Presence with yourself. Presence with your feelings. Presence with others. When someone asks, "How are you?" tell the truth. Even if it's messy. Even if it makes the air heavy. Even if it's awkward. Speak what's real. Say, "I feel lost." Say, "I miss connection." Say, "I'm tired of pretending." Let your voice carry the weight of your truth. That weight is sacred. That weight is who you are. Not everyone will stay. Not everyone will get it. But those who do, those who don't flinch, who don't run, who don't rush to fix you, those people are your people. And you will never find them until you stop being a stranger to yourself. You can't build a real life on a false self. You can't find real intimacy from behind a mask. Real connection requires risk. The risk of being misunderstood. The risk of being rejected. But also the possibility, the real, glowing, terrifying possibility, of being met. Of being loved not for who you pretend to be, but for who you truly are. You'll never feel less lonely by being more liked. You'll only feel less lonely by being more known. So begin again. Begin here. Begin by coming back to the parts of you that have been waiting in the shadows. The ones you buried. The ones you apologized for. The ones you were told were too much. Bring them home. Sit with them. Let them breathe. And then, slowly, gently, share them. Not all at once. Not with everyone. But with someone. Someone safe. Someone real. And if you don't have that person yet, be that person for yourself. Write your truth. Speak it out loud. Let it echo in the quiet. And know that your voice, your real, unfiltered voice, is the beginning of your healing. You don't need to be fixed. You need to be witnessed. Loneliness tells you that no one sees you. But the deeper truth is this: you haven't been showing yourself. Not really. You've been showing the version that keeps the peace. That pleases. That hides. That smiles and nods and asks about other people's days while silently dying inside. That's not you. You are not a hollow shape built to carry other people's comfort. You are not here to make everyone else feel better while you shrink into nothingness. You are not here to perform being okay while your soul starves. You are here to live, fully, fiercely, truthfully. And that means reclaiming every part of you, even the ones that feel shameful. Even the ones that feel broken. Even the ones that no one clapped for. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." In the same spirit, waste no more time arguing what a connected life looks like. Begin living one. Begin building one. Begin showing up for one. It won't be clean. It won't be fast. But it will be real. And that's what will save you. Loneliness is not always about the absence of people, it's about the absence of depth, of meaning, of presence. You can start restoring that now. With one breath, with one truth, with one act of courage. So stop scrolling. Stop comparing. Stop numbing. Just sit. Ask your soul what it's been waiting for. And then, become that. Become the friend you long for. The listener you crave. The presence you ache for. And as you become that, something shifts. The silence starts to hum instead of hurt. The ache becomes a calling. And the loneliness turns into space. Space you can fill with truth, with beauty, with real connection. You are not broken. You are becoming. And loneliness is not your enemy, it's your invitation. Your invitation to return. There's a strange moment in healing when you realize, you've stopped needing the noise. You're not chasing distractions. You're not desperate to be included. You're not refreshing your feed, hoping someone notices you. That moment feels empty at first. You wonder, have I gone numb? But that's not numbness. That's peace. For the first time, you're not fighting to be seen by others. You're finally starting to see yourself. That's the turning point. You no longer look at people as saviors. You stop begging life to give you someone who will complete you, fix you, finally understand you. Not because you've given up on love, but because you've learned how to stand whole. Because you've stopped outsourcing your self-worth to the moods of others. Because you've discovered the one thing more powerful than attention, self-respect. When you respect yourself, loneliness can't crush you. It may still visit you, in long evenings, in quiet mornings, in moments when everyone seems far away. But it can no longer dominate you. It can no longer convince you that your life is meaningless without someone else's approval. You begin to realize, your life is already meaningful, because you are awake in it, present in it, honest in it. And that changes everything. The way you speak softens, because you're no longer performing. The way you move shifts, because you're no longer rushing to prove yourself. You don't need to be loud to feel important. You don't need to be surrounded to feel loved. You begin to live slower, deeper, truer. And in that depth, something surprising happens. People begin to notice you. But not for what you do, for how you are, for the quiet strength you carry, for the way your presence calms the room, for the way you listen, for the way you hold space, not because you want anything from them, but because you finally have something to give, your whole, unhidden self. That's how true connection begins. Not from craving, from overflow. Because you've sat in your loneliness. You've faced it. You've learned its lessons. And now you carry something rare, depth, a rootedness that can't be faked, a clarity that can't be shaken, a self that doesn't dissolve when others walk away. Most people are terrified of solitude. That's why they fill every second with stimulation. That's why they never stop talking, posting, consuming. They're not afraid of being alone, they're afraid of meeting themselves in the silence. They're afraid of what they'll find, of what they'll feel, of the parts of themselves they've ignored for years. But you're learning to stand still, to hear your own breath, to let your own thoughts rise and fall like waves. You're learning to look in the mirror without flinching. To face the ache without reaching for a screen. To sit in the discomfort without numbing it away. And that kind of courage changes you. You begin to realize, the pain wasn't the problem. Your resistance to it was. The ache was only unbearable because you kept trying to escape it. But now, you let it be. You give it space. You hold it like a wounded child, not like a threat. And slowly, the ache softens. It becomes quiet. It becomes a teacher. Loneliness taught you what really matters. It stripped away the illusion that more is better. It burned off the need to be liked by everyone. It shattered the belief that you need to earn love through performance. And in its place, it left something far more powerful, the desire to live honestly. That desire is sacred. Protect it. Don't sell it for comfort. Don't trade it for popularity. Don't abandon it just because someone else can't meet you there. You will lose people. That's inevitable. The more true you become, the more some people will fade. Not because you're doing something wrong, but because they were only ever in love with your mask. And masks are easier to love than faces. But the ones who remain, or the ones who come, they are the ones who matter. They are the ones who see you not despite your truth, but because of it. They are not afraid of your silence. Not uncomfortable with your honesty. They don't need you to entertain them. They just want you real. And when you meet those people, after the loneliness, after the work, after the long nights with just your breath and your thoughts, something inside you will soften. Not into dependency, but into gratitude. Because you'll know, this connection is not built on need. It's built on resonance. On choice. On shared depth. This is how you build a life that heals you. Not by chasing attention, but by building a home inside yourself so steady, so whole, that only the true ones can find you, and only the real ones can stay. Marcus Aurelius once reminded himself, don't waste time worrying about what other people do or say or think. You must only become who you were meant to be. And the irony is, once you do that, once you truly become who you are meant to be, the loneliness that once felt like a curse becomes a sacred passage. A rite of transformation. A bridge from who you thought you were to who you truly are. And what awaits you on the other side of that bridge, is not just peace. Not just presence. But connection that is real. Relationships that are rooted. Love that doesn't demand you shrink. Because you are no longer seeking rescue. You have rescued yourself. And that, above all else, is what ends loneliness. Not more people. Not more noise. Not more approval. But a soul that finally whispers, I'm here. I see you. I'm not going anywhere. There comes a moment, quiet, almost unremarkable, when you realize you're not lonely anymore. You're alone, perhaps. Still living in your space, still waking to silence, still going hours without conversation. But something has changed. The ache is gone. The emptiness has turned into spaciousness. The silence doesn't hurt, it soothes. You are still by yourself, but you are no longer abandoned. Because you're no longer abandoning yourself. This is the invisible revolution. The shift from inner exile to inner presence. It doesn't announce itself with fireworks. It comes softly. You notice that you no longer flinch when someone cancels plans. You don't panic when no messages come in. You're not anxiously watching people laugh without you, wondering what you're missing. You're here, present, whole, and profoundly okay. That's how you know the loneliness is over, not when others arrive, but when you do. This doesn't mean you don't still long for connection. Of course you do. You're human. You were built for it. But the longing is different now. It's not hunger, it's invitation. You don't need someone to fill a hole. You're offering your fullness. You're not begging to be chosen. You're ready to choose. You're not seeking rescue. You're seeking resonance. And when someone steps into your life, you don't hand them the keys to your worth. You welcome them into a space that's already alive, already sacred, already yours. That's the gift of healing from real loneliness. You become the person you used to search for. You become the calm presence, the honest voice, the open heart. You become the one who listens without judgment, who speaks without pretending, who stays without conditions. You become the one others feel safe with, not because you're perfect, but because you're present. And that kind of presence is rare. That kind of presence is what people remember. Because most have never truly been seen. Most have never been held in stillness. Most have never known love that doesn't require performance. And when you've walked through your own desert, when you've sat in the dry silence of your own heart and watered it back to life, you carry something powerful. You carry empathy that cannot be faked, compassion that isn't pity, A gaze that doesn't flinch. That is how you begin to heal others, too. Not by saving them, but by standing so fully in your own truth that they remember how to stand in theirs. This is the quiet ripple that changes lives. Not a movement, not a lecture. Just one soul who has come home to themselves, offering a map to anyone brave enough to return. This isn't philosophy anymore. It's practice. It's how you greet your own thoughts. How you speak when no one's watching. How you handle rejection, silence, change. It's in the way you breathe when things fall apart. In the way you walk away from places where your soul can't breathe, even when it hurts. It's in the way you choose presence over pretending. And slowly, life shifts. You stop fearing endings. You stop forcing connections. You stop trying to control how others see you. Because you see you. And that vision is enough. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." But when you've been lonely, those thoughts can become cruel. They can twist everything. They tell you you're forgotten, unlovable, invisible. But when you face them, truly face them, and challenge them with your presence, they begin to unravel. You stop believing every harsh story your mind spins. You stop being the enemy within. And once your mind becomes your ally, everything changes. You no longer live in fear of yourself. You trust your intuition. You respect your needs. You move with clarity. You speak with calm. And most of all, you wait. You wait for the real thing. Real friends. Real love. Real purpose. You don't settle for noise anymore. You don't bend to be chosen. You don't rush to fill the space. You trust the space. Because now you know, what's meant for you will only recognize the real you. Not the version you contorted. Not the one you performed. But the soul you reclaimed. The one that survived the silence and grew roots in it. That version of you, the honest, grounded, quietly powerful version, that is the gift your loneliness was trying to give you all along. So what do you do with real loneliness? You listen to it. You stop running from it. You stop silencing it. You stop treating it like a disease and start treating it like a teacher. You let it strip away what's false. Let it call you back to yourself. Let it burn down the hollow friendships, the fake smiles, the self-abandonment. Let it lead you into solitude, and let that solitude show you your strength. And then, when the time is right, when your soul is steady, when your voice is clear, you begin to connect again. Not from desperation. From wholeness. You write messages you mean. You call people who matter. You speak honestly, even when it's awkward. You leave spaces that feel wrong. You stay in the ones that feel right. And if no one's there yet, that's okay. You've got you now. You're not empty anymore. You're ready. Ready for life that's honest. For love that doesn't shrink you. For friendships that nourish. For nights that are peaceful, not hollow. You're ready to live without the mask. To speak without apology. To be seen without fear. Because you know now, real loneliness isn't about being alone. It's about being disconnected from truth. And once you return to truth, once you stand in it, breathe in it, move from it, loneliness has no power over you. You are not lost. You are becoming. And what you're becoming is everything you once thought you needed from someone else. Now it lives in you. And from that place, from that beautiful, quiet, powerful place, everything begins.